Hey, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. Got a little bit of a new setup, got some new gear here, and we are having yet another one of our great streams. This time it's a morning stream. So, welcome, everybody. So glad to be here with all of you. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. We are going to have a morning stream.
Spoken of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. So glad to be here with all of you. As I said, we've got some new gear, new camera, new gear. We're operating differently. I felt it was time for an upgrade because we've had technical difficulties on the recent streams. So how's it going? How is the audio? Can you all hear me well? Is the audio coming through well? I'm still using my same mic, the one that was having problems before. We seem to have a better camera, but how's the audio? Is the audio well? Can you hear me good? And I think the camera is pretty high quality. So yeah, people say that the audio is doing well. I'm glad to be here with all of you, getting ready for a big trip. But the way we do things, for those of you who may not be familiar, the way we do things here is we have some opening remarks, and then after the opening remarks, we do a roll call where I call you all out as I see you, names and locations. We find out who's on the other side of the camera. And then from there, after the opening remarks and after the roll call, then I answer your super chat questions for the rest of the night. So if there's something that you'd like me to talk about in the second half of our program, the best thing for you to do is to send me a Rumble rant on Rumble or a super chat on YouTube. Often we're on Rockfin. Right now we are not on Rockfin. We're just on Rumble and YouTube. We'll be on other networks, other platforms, but I'm just experimenting with new ways to do this. I'm very excited about the big trip. I've been handling a lot, making sure everyone has their visas and making last minute arrangements. And we're going to have a great delegation at the World Youth Festival. I'll tell you all about that later. But yeah, we're going to have a morning stream here. So that's going to be good. So again, if you've got something you want me to talk about in the second half of the show, send me a super chat. That's the way we do things. So since this is a morning stream, I always like to start my day with classical music because I argue that classical music is a little bit more structured, a little less emotional than regular, standard music that you hear on the radio. It kind of brings order to the day. It helps you kind of organize your thoughts, think more mathematically. So I figured since we're doing a morning stream that we would start with some classical music as I drink my unnamed diet beverage as the sun is high in the sky next to me. So yeah, I'm going to put on some classical music and we'll start out with that. So, all right, we'll do, hold on. We'll do Mozart, Rondo alla Turca, the Turkish March. All right. So that was just some morning classical music to listen to while I sip my unnamed diet beverage. Part of my typical morning routine. And I am trying to make this part of my morning routine. It's an exercise I encourage people to do, improves your posture, etc. I've done it on these streams here before many times, and it has really improved my upper body strength. You'll notice my neck is way thicker than it used to be, and my upper body, and I walk taller than I used to. A couple years ago, I started doing this exercise. And it really helps. So what I do is I hold my arms above my head. I stand and I hold my arms above my head for as long as I can. And I try to do this exercise as much as I can. I wish I could say I do it every day, but I don't. But I'd like to. But it's a great way to start out the day. It really stretches out your back, and it's upper body strength and endurance, right? And it improves your posture, and it improves your ability to speak. It expands your voice capacity. It's just a great exercise to do. I've done this exercise on here before, and people say to me, well, why don't you just do push-ups? Push-ups don't improve your posture, right? In fact, push-ups, you're kind of hunched over there. But this actually, not only are you building up upper body strength, you're strengthening your shoulders and your upper arms and your neck, but you're also improving your own posture, because people judge you by your posture. I will say there's a lot of people I see my age and younger who, because of laptop computers and because of phones, they don't have good posture. They're like this, right? They're hunched over their phone, they're hunched over their laptop, and it doesn't look good. It's not healthy. It doesn't communicate the right message. When you interact with somebody, if you're hunched over, like you've been hunched over a laptop or you've been hunched over a screen, it's not a good self-presentation. You want to present yourself as standing up tall, but it's very difficult if you get into a bad habit. And one way to improve one's posture is to do an exercise like this as much as you can. So what I always do is I always put on the Marches of John Philip Sousa, right? And I just I stand and I try to hold my arms above my head as long as I possibly can. So, the longest I've ever done it was on these streams. I believe it was Christmas. I did it for very long. I did it for like almost 25 minutes or something like that. But I'm going to do it again right now. I'm going to do, I'm going to have my arms in the air for as long as I can. I'm going to back up first, right? And then point the camera upward. I will say this camera is way better. Yeah, look at this. This camera is much clearer. All right. Okay, so let's get how we want to get. Oh, wow. There we go. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to hold my arms above my head. I'm going to start the music and then hold my arms above my head as long as I can. Let's see how long I can do it. Now, I have been doing this, a lot lately, and I've noticed that if you don't do this for a long time, you can do it longer. But if you do it a lot, it gets harder. But we'll see. And I've also noticed that I tend to do this longer with all of you watching, because I want to impress you all or whatever. So let's see how long I can go today. Great way to start the day. Great exercise. Yeah, I'm feeling it a lot more than I usually do, so I probably won't go as long today, but we'll see, right? I'm going to try to hold it up as long as I possibly can, since this is a morning stream. I don't do as many morning streams, but yeah, I'm feeling it. Yeah, I'm feeling it, but you know, what's weird about this exercise is it goes back and forth. You really feel it and then you don't. Right? You have different muscles in your upper body, and I think, you know, you change positions or different muscles kick in. It's not consistent. Like for 1 minute you'll be really feeling it in your upper body and your arms, and then the next minute you won't be. But part of the trick is to keep breathing the whole time. You want to breathe deeply. You don't want to try to hold your breath, right? I think our instinct is that, you know, when you're trying to endure something, you hold your breath as a way to just press through. But if you're doing it for a really long time, you have to breathe normally. I try to look upwards. That helps with the posture. The main reason I'm doing this is for my back, because it just feels really great on my back. I can almost feel my spine being straightened as I do this. So yes, I like John Philip Sousa. My favorite John Philip Sousa march, as I mentioned before, is the Manhattan Beach March, which is not in the compilation that I play while I exercise like this. You know, they played Stars and Stripes Forever earlier. I don't know what this piece is called, but this is, you know, I do this so much, and I always listen to this piece of music while I do it, and that helps me to know how far I've gone and to press myself, because I know the parts of the music, and that helps. Is Coney Island a beach? No, but Brighton Beach is near there. Coney Island is an island. It's in Brooklyn, though, right? It's just a bridge over, you know, it's Brighton Beach, and then there's a bridge over Brighton Beach into Coney Island, at least. That's how I understand it. I don't live near there. Brighton Beach is the historically Russian neighborhood of New York City, going back, you know, to like the 1900s. Even if you go out to Brighton Beach today, they still have Russian signs in Brighton Beach. You know, a lot of the stores are Russian, and Brighton Beach was a stronghold of the Communist Party USA back in the day, right? The CPUSA was very strongly based there. One of the stories that I heard about Brighton Beach that I think is amusing is when the Black Panthers and the Communist Party developed an alliance, right? So after Richard Nixon was elected, the Black Panthers, you know, were being targeted by COINTELPRO, and so they decided to take the position that Richard Nixon was a fascist, which was not the correct position, but they took that position and they aligned with the Communist Party USA and the Soviet Union, more or less, against Nixon because they were under attack. That was a pivot, because originally the Communist Party USA had said that the Black Panthers were left adventurists because they carried firearms, and the Communist Party had a hard line against black nationalism. But there was kind of a convergence. You know, the Soviet Union, its foreign policy was shifting in the aftermath of the events of Czechoslovakia. Remember, in 1968, you had the so-called Prague Spring, where the USA and the color revolution apparatus, you know, they installed an anti-Russian, anti-communist guy named Dubček in Czechoslovakia, and the Soviet Union was forced to intervene, and that forced the Soviet Union into a position of being more radical. And then at the same time, you had, you know, black nationalism was becoming very, very popular in the United States. And Angela Davis, who was a member of the Communist Party, you know, she was sympathetic to the Black Panthers and friendly to them. And so with all of that happening, the Communist Party and the Black Panthers aligned, you know, briefly after Richard Nixon was elected. And when Angela Davis was tried, all of a sudden there were a lot of very old women from Brighton Beach who started protesting in support of the Black Panthers. And people thought it was very odd, but there were a lot of very, very old women marching and protesting with signs about international labor defense and support the Black Panthers and support Angela Davis. And people in New York City thought it was very odd that they were old Russian women from Brighton Beach, right? And when the Soviet Union aligned with the Black Panthers, all of a sudden, they were supporting the Black Panthers. And it was an odd moment. They think of these like very old women, 70, 80-year-old women marching with signs for the Black Panthers, but that was because the Communist Party and the Soviet Union and the Black Panthers had found common ground temporarily. And that was, it was in the aftermath kind of the political upsurge of the 60s. You saw a little bit of a surge in CPUSA membership with Angela Davis and her allies in what they called the Che Lumumba clubs, which were specific clubs of the Communist Party USA designed to recruit Black nationalists and people that were admirers of the Black Panthers. It was temporary, though. By about 73, 74, the CPUSA was still in decline, right? And you could tell that Gus Hall was never really comfortable with the wave of Black radicals coming into the party. But there's a good talk that Gus Hall gave during those years. It's called Lame Duck in Turbulent Waters. And in it, he talks about how they didn't build their own party enough. They supported the Democrats too much. It's very out of character for Gus Hall. If you read Lame Duck in Turbulent Waters, during the second administration of Richard Nixon, the Communist Party was rising in membership, and it talked in a rather radical way that it didn't normally do. But by the late 70s, they were talking about Republicans being fascists, and they were just supporting the Democrats, and they were demobilizing their own ranks. But briefly in the early 70s, there was kind of a weird alliance between the Black Panthers and the Communist Party, and there was a rise in membership due to Angela Davis, due to the Che Lumumba clubs, due to the Black Panthers becoming allies of the Soviet Union temporarily. It's all very complicated geopolitical history. I hope you all can hear me. I'm not very close to my mic. I'm standing up and my mic is down below me. Can you all hear me? That's what I was thinking about when I said Brighton Beach. Someone was saying Brighton Beach, and that got me thinking about that. Because, Brighton Beach is a historically Russian neighborhood. I mean, recently, in 2014, in the aftermath of the Euromaidan coup, they started doing, marches on Victory Day here in New York City. Rallies to support the Soviet Union or China, or Russia, and their legacy of defeating fascism in the Second World War. And there were huge crowds of people from Brighton Beach, Russian Americans, that marched with the St. George's ribbon, on Victory Day. There is a very big Russian American community in New York City. I understand it's somewhat divided. Not all of them are with Russia on Ukraine, and there's a lot of them that are quiet about it, right? Because here in the United States, if you support Putin, you can lose your job, right? You can lose your job. You can get banned from your social circle. So a lot of Russian Americans, they're already suspect because they're not from this country, right? They're Russian Americans. And because of that, a lot of them are being very quiet because they don't want to lose their job. They don't want to lose everything, which makes sense. Marching my feet a little bit. I'm really feeling it in my upper body right now. I'm pretty far into this. Yeah, I usually don't make it this far. Again, it's you guys that are doing this, right? It's because I'm in front of all of you. It's keeping my arms in the air. I probably would have dropped it by now if I was doing this by myself. But yeah, you guys are giving me strength. I'm trying to do the best job I can for all of you, so I'm keeping my arms in the air. I'm feeling it in my upper arms. I'm feeling it in my shoulders, but I'm continuing to go. This really helps posture. This really makes your back feel better. Oh, yes. Now I'm really feeling it. It's weird. It goes in and out. Suddenly you feel it and suddenly you don't. Now I'm really feeling it. Yep. Yeah, I'm really feeling it. Okay, and we're going down. Boy. All righty. Oh, okay. Oh, yes, that feels great on my back. That feels tremendous on my back. Feels tremendous. Oh, yes, I'm feeling it in my back. I'm feeling the burn in my upper shoulders. Whoa, 19 minutes and 59 seconds. I did 19 minutes and 59 seconds. So it's not a record. I've done, longer, but yeah, that was whoo. Right? Now my back is fully awake. My upper body and shoulders are throbbing, and oh man, that is a very good exercise to do. And thank you. We got one super chat that came in. I'll answer those in the second half. Let me see if we got any Rumble rants on the Rumble. Doesn't seem to be any Rumble rants on the Rumble. I've got an ad telling me not to buy a pair of glasses. What in the world is this? All right, skip the ad. Oh, now I got another ad. Why is it showing me ads on my own broadcast on the Rumble? All right, there we go. Now I muted the Rumble. Okay. Yeah. But whew, all right. So yes, we are headed to the World Youth Festival. That will be next week. We're headed out, scrambling to get everyone's visas together. We got a good delegation of people going. It looks like Noah will be headed out. Noah's our good comrade in Boston, great organizer. We got Tom from Detroit, an auto worker, friend of CPI or a member of CPI, longtime friend of mine. He's going. Looks like our president, Elizabeth Young, is coming as a speaker, and she's going to be speaking to the festival. So yeah, we're going to be having a very good intervention as CPI, and our friends from the Party of Communists are coming as well. It's going to be a really, really great time at the festival. I'm very, very excited about it. So shout out to Carl the Trinket Man. Woo, that feels good. Feels good to get some unnamed diet beverage here in the morning. Carl the Trinket Man, good friend of CPI. He sent me some trinkets to give out to the various people we meet at the festival. So I'm going to show you some. They arrived today. Thank you, Carl, for your tireless work and your dedication to supplying us with what we need. But so we've got these buttons that Carl the Trinket Man made, and they have great leaders of Russia and great leaders of America. And then you can see you have Russia and America shaking hands. Russian American, and you've got Catherine the Great and one of the czars and Stalin, and then you've got Roosevelt and Lincoln and Washington. So this is a souvenir that we will give to all of the Russian youth that we meet. We have many of them. He gave me there's like multiple bags of these. And so that's one souvenir we will be able to give to our friends when we meet them. And I'm very excited to meet a lot of Russian youth and give them this souvenir of Russian and American friendship with great leaders of our respective countries on them. That's going to be very, very awesome. In addition to that, we are very excited to meet with the Kim Il-sung youth of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, which we don't know if that meeting is going to happen or not, right? Things between the United States and North Korea are obviously not good. But we have printed a special book. We also have a book aimed at Russia about our opposition to NATO and such. But in addition to that, thanks to Carl the Trinket Man, we've got these beautiful buttons with Kim Il-sung and George Washington, right? The founders of our respective homelands, who both were known for fighting imperialism. George Washington fought British imperialism. Kim Il-sung fought Japanese and U.S. imperialism, but we will obviously give these as a gift to the Kim Il-sung youth of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea when we meet them, if we have that opportunity. So thanks to Carl the Trinket Man for that. And to top it all off, Carl the Trinket Man, he went all out. He went all out. He really went all out. And we are really, really honored. Carl the Trinket Man went all out. We've got, in order to commemorate the Second World War, we've got pins with the United States and the Soviet flag to commemorate World War II. So we've got that as well. And in addition to that, we've got pins with, I believe this is the Russian flag, right? The modern Russian flag, American and Russian flags. So shout out to you, Carl, if you're watching. I am deeply moved by all these trinkets that you have created. We are just deeply, deeply happy to receive them. And that's really, really great. And we're hoping to go to Russia with these trinkets and have many, many great meetings with the youth of Russia and North Korea, and the youth of many different countries. We've got special booklets printed, and yeah, we're hoping that we will come to this festival and do our job to align Americans with the new economy that is emerging around the world. There is a new economy emerging around the BRICS, the Eurasian Economic Union, the Belt and Road Initiative of Russia. We're very excited about it. So, we had a press conference at the United Nations, right? We had a press conference at the United Nations to announce our delegation to the World Youth Festival. And, I'm at the point where I just stay away from, where I'm trying to make myself stay away from a lot of different things. But, the World Youth Festival already has a Wikipedia page, right? I'll just drop the Wikipedia page for this upcoming event. that I'm the chair of the American delegation to the World Youth Festival. It's already got a Wikipedia page. That's the Wikipedia page. And we just had a UN press conference about it. So I'm going to show the UN press conference, but maybe there's somebody watching this who is into editing Wikipedia, who can stomach the drama and the fights. I feel like the fact that a UN press conference about the World Youth Festival already happened should be on the Wikipedia page. I feel like the press conference that happened at the United Nations, sponsored by the Russian mission, it should be on the Wikipedia page. So I'm going to put the press conference on, and maybe somebody who is more chronically online than I am, right? Maybe somebody who can stomach the debate, the online stuff more than I can help make sure that there's some record of the U.S. participation in the festival on that Wikipedia page. Create a buzz, create a stir, make sure people know there will be Americans at this great gathering. But here we go.
Thank you very much for joining the press conference, where we would like to tell you about an extraordinary event that is called World Youth Festival 2024 that will take place in 2 weeks in the beautiful city of Sochi in Russia. And this festival will embrace 20,000 students from all over the world and Russia as well. So they are young leaders of business, of charity, of other maybe like art, other public ways of life. And so these young talented people will just participate in just take part in exciting workshops, discussions, and so they will be ready to share their ideas. And the main goal for us is just to create a platform where these young people just ready implement their ideas for the brighter future. And so today we have actually 4 American speakers, so the 3 here and 1 is here. So it's just lucky people that are going to visit Sochi and to represent the US delegation over there, a total of 15 people. And we have Caleb Maupin, and also we have Christopher Hilali and Elizabeth Pekin and Noah Stern here. So we would like to start with a short 2-minute video to show just, the impression of the festival. And after that, the speakers will tell their opinions. And after that, we'll be happy just to answer all your questions. Okay, so we'll start with the video.
Namaste. Добрый день, дорогие друзья.
Hola, me voy a Rusia.
Hi, ik ga naar Rusland.
Hola, me voy a Rusia.
Hello, I am coming to Russia.
Salve, eu vou pra Rússia.
Dunia ini harus menjadi tempat yang aman, tempat yang bisa ditinggali oleh seluruh umat manusia tanpa memperhatikan perbedaan suku, etnis, agama.
One, the youth is the next generation, and we need to empower them in order to take up social challenges and to be able to solve issues.
Este es un encuentro único donde jóvenes de todo el mundo vamos a poder encontrarnos para debatir diferentes ideas y soluciones a los desafíos presentes y futuros.
Om meer te leren over hun culturen, maar ook de initiatieven die zij nemen om hun gemeenschap beter te maken.
В 2017 году в городе Сочи проводился Всемирный фестиваль студентов и молодежи. Я бы хотела предложить провести такой фестиваль еще раз.
Идея очень правильная, потому что такие события, они объединяют людей, признаны объединяют людей.
I will be going to Russia. I will be participating in the upcoming events. We love people of Russia.
Today, as the world faces global challenges, it is very crucial for us to come together and consolidate our efforts to make this world a better place. We are stronger when we are together.
Me voy a Rusia porque es importante compartir lo que hacemos en nuestros países y nuestras comunidades con el mundo.
This particular festival is the best place for us to promote peace and cooperation, and let us all young people throughout the world take this opportunity.
It is important for a young South African like me to come and participate in this upcoming event so that I get to learn of this amazing economy, which is a major global player.
U tome Rusiju, jer je Rusija prelepa zemlja izuzetnih mogućnosti i puno aktivnosti za mlade. Ona je domovina novih kultura, naroda e religija.
Eu também vou para a Rússia porque eu quero participar da construção do novo mundo multipolar, da nova ordem mundial e do novo futuro compartilhado que nos espera.
So now the words go to Caleb Maupin, the chair of the U.S. delegation, and he also represents the Center for Political Innovation.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Caleb Maupin. I'm the founder of the Center for Political Innovation. And in October, I was deeply honored when the youth office of the Russian Foreign Ministry reached out to me about forming a national preparatory committee for the upcoming World Youth Festival set for March in Russia. As someone who attended the World Festival of Youth and Students in 2013 in Quito, Ecuador, someone who attended the festival that was held in Sochi in 2017, as an advocate of socialism, peace, and international cooperation, as an American patriot, as a Christian, and someone who strives to live according to the teachings of Jesus Christ, I considered this to be a great opportunity. However, it is the circumstances of our upcoming trip that bring us here today. As we meet here today, Jesse Neville, Penny Hess, and Omali Yeshitela have been indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice. They are facing a possible 15 years in prison. Their trial date was just set for September. The Biden administration has charged them for doing what we are about to do, for going to an international conference in Russia. The Biden administration has declared that they're putting on some Zoom calls, writing some articles about Ukraine, that has been conspiracy to act as a foreign agent. And this case is absolutely outrageous. It's an attack on freedom of assembly, freedom to travel, freedom of speech, and freedom of association. And it's designed to intimidate Americans from doing what we plan to do, visit Russia and question U.S. foreign policy. In light of this horrific indictment, it is very important that we go to Russia to show that we will not be intimidated and to take responsibility for the future amid the utter failure of the Biden administration. Biden said he would end the war in Yemen, and as we all know, now that war is expanding and U.S. bombs are being dropped on Yemen. Biden has poured billions of dollars of American taxpayer money into Ukraine to prolong this war, at the same time that our bridges and highways are crumbling and our living standards are dropping and American working families are being squeezed by inflation. Under these circumstances, with Biden trying to intimidate Americans and weaponizing the Department of Justice against dissidents, and with international tensions rising, we have a duty to go to Russia and show the world another America. Because there are two Americas. Beyond Wall Street and Hollywood, in the vast territories of the American heartland, you will find a lot of hardworking people who love their children, love their communities, and want a better life. You will find an America that values peace, not war. It is this America that produced Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Black Panthers, the great abolitionist John Brown, and it's this America that produced the labor movement that pushed forward Roosevelt, the great anti-fascist coalition that propelled the United States to align with the Soviet Union to defeat the menace of fascism in a great moment in history, also to align with China. It is this America, the America that's been hidden from mainstream TV, the America that has been canceled by the social media monopolies. It's this America of the working class, of small business owners, and people of many different races and ethnic backgrounds who reject war and the emerging low-wage police state. It is this America and its democratic traditions that I will be proudly representing in Sochi. There's a new economy arising in the world today centered around the BRICS, the Eurasian Economic Union, the Belt and Road Initiative of China, and the real America would benefit from joining with this new economy, trading with countries on the basis of win-win cooperation, and ending the wars, the threats, and the sanctions. The Center for Political Innovation sees Russia as an ally of the real America,
and we call for the charges against the Uhuru Three to be immediately dropped. And we look forward to making lots of new friends at the upcoming World Youth Festival. Not just youth from Russia, but youth from the 188 different countries that will be represented at this vitally important international gathering. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we would like to hear Christopher Hilali, Party of Communists, USA.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christopher Hilali. I'm the International Secretary for the Party of Communists USA and the Vice Chair of the National Preparatory Committee in preparation to go to the World Youth Festival in Sochi. Of course, this is a historic moment. Our party, throughout its history, and of course, going back to the old Communist Party USA, have had many of our leaders study and travel to the Soviet Union, what was the Soviet Union, and now continue the tradition of international fraternity and building bonds with young people, with academics, with journalists, with people all over the world. And we believe, especially at this point in history, it is critical for young people around the world, regardless of their country's national policies, to be united in building a better world for the future. And we recognize, given the existential challenges that are facing our planet, the different countries in the world, and young people throughout the world, that it is vital for our participation and to build these ties. We look forward to our participation. We look forward to meeting with young people from all of the different countries. And of course, we want to show ultimately that as American citizens, we have every right to go and to travel to Russia, even at this difficult time between their bilateral relations. And we feel it is necessary in the spirit of peace and cooperation to be there and to show our solidarity with the people of Russia and with the young people around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So now we would like to hear Elizabeth Pekin from the American Student Union.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Pekin. I am the National Secretary. Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Pekin. I am the National Secretary of the American Student Union, and I am a member of the American National Preparatory Committee for the World Youth Festival. As students, we've grown up with a lot of anti-Russian propaganda, not just our generation, but our parents' generations. For those of us that were born in Generation Z, our parents, Gen X, baby boomers, they were constantly told that the Soviets were going to bomb them at any moment, but that didn't happen. And today, actually a couple of years ago, back in February 2022, I went to an event at a local high school, and kids were given these QR codes to scan to donate to Ukraine and sort of guilted into it by the teachers. And as Americans, we have freedom of speech to express our views. We have freedom to travel, which I will be traveling to Russia to promote international friendship and cooperation, not just with Russia, but with all of the other people that are attending this festival. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so we have one more speaker here. So it's Noah Shank. He will speak from there. And he's also for the Center for Political Union here. So,
hey, everybody. My name is Noah Shank. And one of the reasons that I am so excited to be able to join the World Youth Festival is that we will be able to meet with youth from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Right now, it is illegal to travel to the DPRK under US law. And that's really unfortunate in light of the escalations on the Korean Peninsula. We have to remember that the DPRK is a nuclear-armed country, and these escalations, they could be very dangerous. That's why I think it's so important that, in combination with the fact that I, as a Korean American, feel a deep kinship with the Korean people, and I want to see them joined, that's why it's so important for us to meet with them. We've published a book to give to them, and we want to really show them that there are Americans in the United States who do not hate the North Koreans, not only do we not hate them, but we respect them. We admire their revolutionary tradition. We admire how they showed support for the Palestinian people in their struggle for liberation. We admire how they welcomed the Black Panther Party into their country and showed support for Black liberation and for the liberation struggles around the world. It's just going to be a real honor to be able to meet with them.
Thank you very much. So we are ready to talk more, and so we are ready to answer all your questions, and I encourage you, of course, to ask our speakers, who are, just as I mentioned, lucky people to go soon to Sochi. So please go ahead, of course.
Thank you very much on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for doing this briefing. My name is Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. First, I'd like to know whether the U.S. government has approached any of you about your trip and said, no, you shouldn't be going. And could you tell us how many Americans you expect to be going to this conference, and whether you're expecting a lot of Western European to also be going? Thank you.
Well, to answer your question, we have prepared the members of our respective organizations for U.S. government harassment. At this time, we are mainly looking at what's been done to the Uhuru movement and the indictment that has taken place against them. But we have gone over with our members what to do if the FBI comes to your house, what your constitutional rights are under such circumstances, and we expect such harassment. Now, there will be 15 members of the American delegation to the festival. I can't speak for the other delegations, but I know there are delegations from a number of Western European countries. We are the three organizations that form the National Preparatory Committee. That's the Center for Political Innovation, the Party of Communists USA, and the American Student Union. There are also other individuals that are attending the festival, due to a relationship with the Russian embassy, et cetera. So, but it will be 15 Americans total at the festival. Our understanding is there will also be some American guest speakers who are not youth, but are of, a more adult age, who will be giving presentations.
Just a quick follow-up. Do you see what you're planning to do as any different from what the three people you spoke about have been arrested for?
Well, if you read the U.S. Department of Justice's indictment, what it lists is it says that because they attended a conference called the Anti-Globalization Conference that happened in Russia in 2014, and because they then convened some web conferences and Zoom calls, it alleges that this is spreading Russian propaganda and that they were acting as unregistered agents of a foreign government. And this indictment is a huge attack on freedom of speech, a huge attack on freedom of assembly. If the letter of the law, as they are trying to enforce it, stands in court, all kinds of international delegations, all kinds of political activism and dissident speech would be rendered illegal. And in light of the indictment, we're already hearing wider calls. There's been calls to indict people for pro-Palestine demonstrations. There's been calls to indict people for alleged links to China. And they are anxious to start prosecuting individuals who put forward views like the views that we put forward. We oppose war. We want a better relationship with Russia and China and Venezuela and all the countries that are currently being sanctioned and attacked by the American government. And this indictment should be a deep concern to anyone who values freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and the democratic traditions that our country is known for. But I'm sure our other speakers want to say some things. So.
I would just add that, I have not been approached personally, but for other activist work, we have been approached. We've been stopped at the border. Many activists have been stopped at the border for traveling to Cuba, for traveling to Venezuela, for traveling to Nicaragua, for traveling like I have to the DPRK. And I believe it's very important to recognize that our participation at this event is something that is, for us, youth-to-youth diplomacy. It's an opportunity for us to meet with other young people and to be able to share our values and views and to hear their values and views. And so I don't think that there's anything in doing that that is criminal or should require us to be prosecuted for that. And I believe that some of these attacks that have happened by the US government on different activists are politically motivated. And so we want to say that we won't be intimidated, as Caleb rightly pointed out, and that we want to be able to travel. We have a right to learn from others and to hear what they have to say and to hear their perspectives. And I think that's important, and we should have the right to share those perspectives and opinions with other students, with other young people, and with the broader American public.
Let's go ahead.
Thank you very much. Evelyn Leopold, I'm not totally I'm sorry. I think called
Go ahead, please. Yep.
All right, now we'll start again. Evelyn Leopold, I'm not unfamiliar with this kind of gathering because 100 years ago in East Berlin, when I was living in West Berlin, I attended one, which was not serious but very humorous. But anyway, my question to you is, how strong do you advocate human rights? Because I understand advocating them in this country and not being punished for going to these gatherings. But do you do any of it in Russia or in North Korea? I don't see how you, in that context, justify the invasion of Ukraine. I realize it's been going on in small steps for a number of years, but as someone who, I'm not a world expert, but I follow fascism quite carefully, including that in Russia, and I suppose you do too, given your history and where you come from. So I'm just curious if you could dwell on any of that. Good meeting you.
Well, actually, I'm very excited about the fact that one thing we'll be able to do when we attend the festival is see Russia for ourselves and ask our Russian hosts about these issues that we so widely hear reported in American media. And I've been to Russia a number of times, and I can tell you the way things are reflected are not accurate. And we'll be able to see for ourselves about the human rights situation in Russia without the bias and distortions of mainstream American media. And we'll be able to ask our guides about this. We'll be able to talk to everyday Russians while we're there, and I'm looking forward to it. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to learn the truth beyond the deceptions of Western media. What do you think, Chris?
I would add that human rights language and human rights discourse has been used as part of asymmetric warfare, and that's recognized within the legal community. I'm a law student currently, and so we recognize that human rights has been used as an instrument of to further different policies, especially in the West. That's not to say that there aren't issues in every country. We recognize that, of course. But we also recognize that they're also part of the internal affairs of certain countries, and that it's not our job as young people to go there and to tell the governments what they should or shouldn't do based on circumstances that we might not understand fully or that might not be fully apparent to us. And of course, we also recognize that our media, our press, our educational institutions and academic institutions conceal parts of history to further a certain narrative. We are very well aware of this, and there is not a uniform understanding within academic discourse or overall within human rights discourse as to many of these things. So understanding that, we will go, like Caleb said, with an open mind. We will be able to interact with people, and we will see for ourselves.
Exactly. The human rights in Russia, that's for the Russian people to determine. Personally, I've never been to Russia. This is my first time going. And I can't just come as an outsider and then tell people, this is what I've decided I think human rights are and how I think you must implement it. Rather, I'm going with an open mind and seeing for myself, what is it really like in Russia? How are human rights there? What do the people think?
My name is Volodymyr Ichenko, National News Agency of Ukraine, Ukrinform. So, ma'am and gentlemen, do you feel comfortable communicating with representatives of a country that has attacked a neighboring state and bombs peaceful cities, including my native Kyiv, on a daily basis? Today, the Russian forces has fired 26 missiles at Ukraine. Is this somehow consistent with your youth policy of your organization? And Christopher, could you remind me of the beginning of the manifesto of Communist Party?
It's up to you guys if you...
Well, I want to say that I was able to attend the World Youth Festival in 2017 in Sochi, and one of the most meaningful meetings I had was with a delegation of young people from the Donetsk People's Republic. And at that meeting, they told me about what the Ukrainian regime imposed by the United States has been doing to their homeland for so long. The bombings, the food blockades. There is a monument called the Alley of Angels erected to all the children who have died at the hands of the Kiev government. And as an American, and I must say as a Christian, with my government pouring huge amounts of weaponry into that Kiev regime so that it could continue from the time of Euromaidan in 2014 right up to today to bomb and murder people in the eastern regions, I feel a moral obligation to take a stand against that. And that what the U.S. government is doing in prolonging this war, trying to keep it going as long as it can, just to hurt Russia for geopolitical reasons, it is morally reprehensible. And that meeting that I had with the young people from the Donetsk People's Republic was very meaningful. And I look forward to other meetings with the people from the new republics that Russia has moved in to protect and that have voted to join with the Russian Federation.
I would add that I have met with many Ukrainians over the past, not just for the past few years, for many years. In fact, after the coup in 2014, we've met with trade unionists. We met with the Communist Party of Ukraine, which has now been outlawed, by the way. But we met with many of them, and we were able to hear from on the ground the contradictions and problems within Ukrainian society. And so we recognize, of course, the situation on the ground. Our party, of course, recognizes that history works in a different way than portrayed in the mass media. Of course, we have been protesting NATO since its inception as communists. But we recognize, of course, that this war isn't just a war between two nations. It's a war between one nation and a bloc of nations. And so I think that in that perspective, it's very important to understand and recognize what we view as the correct history and how we understand it, not only from the outside, but also in speaking to many Ukrainian communists and anti-fascists who, of course, don't like with Bandera's portrait being portrayed in public offices and government buildings.
But do you remember the beginning of the manifesto of the Communist Party? Do, quote, please.
You may check it later online if you'd like. So let's maybe proceed with the festival.
Not
and
a
without
communist.
political.
You're a
Thank you very
propagandist.
much for the question and the opportunity. So please go ahead.
My name is Nizar Aboud of Al Mayadeen Television in Lebanon. My question is regarding what's going on in Gaza today, Palestine, and I wonder whether any representative from the Palestinians will be attending this gathering, also from Israel, if any youth are coming to this. And how will this youth gathering be tackling the conflict which is going on for over 4 months now?
I'll just say that I can't speak to that. I don't know about whether or not there will be a Palestinian or Israeli representative who attends, but I did attend the International Council of the World Youth Festival that was held in November, and I will say that many times the international guests broke into chants of free, free Palestine, and what I heard at the International Council of people that were leading delegations was a lot of very pro-Palestinian sentiment, but that may not be universal, and so, I guess we'll have to see who comes. I'm not in charge of bringing international delegations. I only represent the American delegation.
I would add that our organizations, respectively, outside of this delegation to the Youth Festival, of course, are in support of Palestinian liberation. We have traveled. I have traveled to Lebanon and met with delegations there. I've traveled to Palestine and met with delegations there. We are hopefully will be returning in the fall to Lebanon to meet with our comrades there. And of course, we recognize that the Palestinian question and the ongoing genocide today that we see is a result of not only Zionist policy, but also the United States. So we recognize and implicate this country. And many of us are involved in our student life, in our campuses, amongst young people in demonstrations and protesting. And we recognize the great injustice that has been done to the Palestinian people. And of course, having been there, having seen it on the ground and having seen the apartheid situation, and from a legal perspective, listening to other lawyers and intellectuals on it, we recognize that it is a just cause and we will continue to fight for the Palestinian people.
All right. I'm not going to show the whole thing. You can go watch the rest of it. It's on this YouTube channel. It's the latest video that we uploaded, so you can watch the rest of it. But I just wanted to give you all an opportunity to see what we did. I'm very excited about the upcoming trip. In my remarks, you heard me mention the Alley of Angels, which is the monument to the children that have been killed. And actually in the book that we printed that we're going to be giving out at the festival, Russia is Not Our Enemy, Notes from Americans Who Stand with Donbass Against NATO, we actually have an image of it. We have the Alley of Angels itself. We have, a photograph of it. It's part of the book. And yeah, we printed this book. We're going to be distributing it to people that we meet at the festival. It's a very short but very beautifully laid out compilation. Shout out to Elizabeth and Marissa. They both did a really good job laying it out. Just a beautiful booklet, and it shows our Austin conference that we did, and it shows various activities we've done to stand with Russia and China and the people of Donetsk in particular. It's kind of, and we have a booklet around DPRK solidarity as well. So we have this, and that's great work. One thing we're also going to do, we're bringing a lot of copies of the Houthi book as well, that when we meet with, there's going to be young people from Iran at the festival, young people from the Middle East. We're going to distribute, this book as well. We're bringing many copies. We're bringing a lot of stuff with us to the festival because this will be a rare opportunity to meet with young people from various countries. From the anti-imperialist bloc, as the United States continues isolating itself and threatening different countries and all of that, there's a new economy arising around the world. And we're excited to go as peace ambassadors, to represent the real America of working families at a gathering where this new economy will be on display before the world. And, we're very excited about doing that. So I wanted to show you all a couple different things, before we open up, before we do the roll call, before we do the Q&A or whatever. There's a couple other things I wanted to just show you and react to, while we're all here. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. But yeah, I want to show you all a few more things I wanted to show you. So Navalny, all right? Alexei Navalny, the opposition guy, who died. U.S. media has been blaming Russia for his death, even though it's not proven that Russia killed him. U.S. media has been just talking about, oh my God, this poor guy who died. They've just been playing it up. One of the people who's been speaking out for Alexei Navalny is the guy that I exposed as being the advisor and kind of the sinister mind behind BreadTube, and that is Dr. Steve Hassan. And so Dr. Steve Hassan, the anti-cult guru, who has just been appointed by U.S. mainstream media as the expert on cults. He goes on Netflix. This guy's a former kidnapper during the 1970s. He kidnapped people. He ran like a kidnapping service, the Cult Awareness Network. And they would kidnap people, if their parents thought they were in a cult, and deprogram them and like browbeat them and all of that. Steve Hassan actually made a video about Alexei Navalny, and it is a cringe video. And I just wanted you all to see this because it's very short, but I'm going to put it on there. This is, the cult guru himself, telling you where he stands. This is utterly amazing, right? The cult expert who wants Americans deprogrammed. He says some utterly stupid things in this video, and it's very short but very telling.
I'm so upset still over the murder of Navalny.
The murder, right? Keep in mind, we don't know why he died or anything, but he's decided it's been a murder. Also, he doesn't look too well. I mean, he looks kind of like a muskrat or something. I don't know what's going on. Maybe he's got some illness or something, but he doesn't look too well there. But he's decided it's a murder, right? Without any evidence or anything. He's upset about that. He's not upset about the murder of all the children right? I mean, you know, Steve Hassan isn't upset about all the children that are commemorated at the Alley of Angels. He made no video for them. He didn't, you know, all these children, he's not upset about their murder, right? All these children in Eastern Ukraine, they just don't matter because CNN didn't bother to report on their deaths. But he's very upset about this quote unquote murder, a death that happened in the Russian prison of a figure who aligned with literal Nazis, who marched in neo-Nazi parades, who referred to ethnic minorities in Russia as cockroaches. He's very upset about this, and he's declared it to be a murder without any evidence.
The cult of Putin.
The cult of Putin. I mean, okay.
Putin.
So not only is he declaring this death that happened in a Russian prison to be a murder, now he's declaring that the cult of Putin is responsible. Keep in mind, he's on the other side of the world. He's on the other side of the planet, right? And he's decided not only is this a murder, but he knows who did it because CNN said so. And
He's a cult leader. My book, The Cult of Trump, everyone's talking.
The cult of Trump, right? You know, I mean, when you call the president of the United States a cult leader, I mean, and his book that tries to argue that Donald Trump uses hypnosis in his speeches and mind control, it's really ridiculous.
Talking about the cult of Trump, but people need to understand, when I wrote that book, I said Putin was the puppet master of Trump.
Putin is the puppet master of Trump. Not that Putin maybe thought Trump had, you know, wanted a better relationship with Russia, or that Putin is the puppet master of Trump. Now, do you realize how outrageous that is? Do you realize that Donald Trump sent lethal weapons to Ukraine, something Obama held off doing? You do realize that, right? You do realize that Donald Trump ripped up the nuclear treaties and you know, escalated the arms race. You know, if Putin, you know, was pulling the strings of Donald Trump, he made Donald Trump do a lot of things that were very bad for Russia. So, I mean, that's just utterly outrageous right there. So it's like, so if Putin is controlling Trump, why did Trump send lethal aid to Ukraine? Why did at the same time, you know, all the nuclear agreements get ripped up? That's absolutely outrageous.
And that I'm just holding up a graphic. When you have an authoritarian cult leader, you have your inner circle of lieutenants and then other people. Most people are on the fringe, but people need to understand authoritarianism is controlling people's behavior, information, thoughts.
Controlling their information. So would that be like censoring the internet and banning people, banning RT from television all across Western Europe? Banning people from social media platforms for spreading for spreading quote unquote disinformation and conspiracy theories? Would that be, you know, banning people from social media for saying things about the COVID vaccine that turned out to be true, and shutting? I mean, is that what that is? Information control, right?
Emotions to make them dependent and obedient.
Dependent and obedient, right? Would that be like, you know, shutting down bank accounts, putting countries under sanctions and shutting down access to global trade if a country challenges the rule of the United States? Would that be like going after Julian Assange? Would that be like prosecuting the Uhuru movement because of the information that they promoted? Tell us more about authoritarianism and thought control.
Okay. And as someone who went to Moscow when the Soviet Union fell to train psychiatrists.
Yeah, you went to Moscow after the fall of the Soviet Union when there was mass poverty all over the country as they ripped apart the centrally planned economy where people had guaranteed jobs and healthcare and education. And you went to the country while it was being economically devastated by free market policies imposed by Boris Yeltsin. So you went to Moscow at the time of the fall of the Soviet Union. What was the headline of Time magazine in 1996? What was the front page of Time magazine? Again, I am so tired of hearing about Russian meddling supposedly in U.S. elections. At the time that you went to the former Soviet Union, what was the USA actually bragging about doing? What was the USA actually bragging about doing? Right? Hold on. I'll put it on the screen here. Okay. Well, I can't put it on the screen, but yeah, you can look at the cover of Time magazine that bragged about how the United States got Boris Yeltsin reelected. But anyway, continue.
Psychologists, all I can say is that, in my opinion, Vladimir Putin, who was raised in the Soviet Union, programmed.
So were millions and millions of people. You know, the Soviet Union was a very, very large country. So I mean, is Russia supposed to elect a president who didn't grow up in the Soviet Union? Like, how is that an own? Like, oh yeah, Vladimir Putin was raised in the Soviet Union. Like, everyone in Russia who is older than, you know, who was born before 1991 was raised in the Soviet Union. That's not an argument.
The KGB is on a version of automatic pilot of authoritarianism. He's very, very
no authoritarianism here in the West.
Dangerous. And people.
How is he dangerous? How is he dangerous, right? The USA invaded Iraq and killed hundreds of thousands of people, lied about weapons of mass destruction, and Russia held off intervening in Ukraine as long as they possibly could. They sat back and let the US-backed forces in Kiev kill these children. The children commemorated at the Alley of Angels. They sat back and let them be killed for 8 years because they didn't want to have a war. Right? They didn't want to take the bait. They didn't want to intervene. And for 8 years, they tried to just have the Minsk agreement be implemented. So how are they dangerous? How are they dangerous?
Being arrested for putting flowers out for Navalny.
No, they're not. No, they're not being arrested for putting flowers out for Navalny. All kinds of people are putting flowers at and openly doing so. And they're not being arrested. That's actually the opposite is happening, right?
Navalny was a hero.
No, he wasn't. Navalny was somebody who was trying to destabilize his homeland on behalf of the United States. Navalny was a friend of neo-Nazis. Navalny wanted to exterminate certain ethnic minorities in Russia. Navalny hated his own people and got funding from the United States to try and destabilize his country and help the United States weaken Russia. So no, Navalny is not a hero.
To lift him up in our minds and
lift him up in our minds. Why? I mean, CNN is already lifting him up. Mainstream Western media, the same Western media that has sold us lies to justify every war, is holding him up. So that right there tells me that he's no good.
Realize he knew the danger in going back to Russia, but he
actually, from what is being said by his mother, apparently his ex-wife kind of forced him to do it. He didn't want to go back to Russia.
Felt like it was worth the risk of being tortured.
Actually, no, he didn't. From what his mother is saying, his ex-wife got him to sign over all his possessions and kind of forced him to do it. His ex-wife saw it as convenient and was using him and kind of pressured him into doing it. His mother said he didn't want to go back to Russia.
Being killed to speak truth.
And how do you, again, you don't know anything about his death. You just assume that the Russian government did it because you don't like the Russian. I mean, this guy, this muskrat here, you know, I mean, this cult of Trump, this advisor to BreadTube, this intelligence aligned guru who has studied different ways of manipulating people with neurolinguistic programming, who ran a kidnapping service. This guy, you know, he just loves Navalny so much.
Power. Thanks.
Yeah. So there you go. I just wanted to get that out of my system because, I mean, you want to talk about a video that's just pandering ridiculously. So that was one thing I wanted to talk about. The other thing is there was a National Day of Action for Julian Assange that happened around the country because Julian Assange, you know, his extradition hearings continue, and there's talk of, you know, this could be his last chance sending him back to the United States. We were really honored to have Ellie from the Center for Political Innovation speak to the Chicago rally. So I'm going to show you the brief speech that Ellie gave, you know, at the Chicago rally for Assange. So here we go.
Center for Political Innovation.
Stan. Yeah, I'm the adult educator here in Chicago. I participated with Stan in various struggles, anti-imperialist struggles over the years. The Center for Political Innovation is a socialist and anti-imperialist education project, publishing books, producing films, conferences, workshops, study groups, in real life activities, as well as virtually, of course. For all of these things, we need our First Amendment rights. It affects everything we do, educating, organizing people to just get informed, right? Obviously. On all of these activities and issues, we oppose the endless regime change wars, as well as the censorship regime chipping away at our civil liberties. Now, in my day job, I educate adults. So new immigrants, I teach them English as well as GED classes for people who haven't gotten their high school diploma yet. I love my job, having daily contact with, with such a broad cross-section of Chicagoans, working class Chicagoans, hardworking people just trying to take care of their families, right? And part of the curriculum, of course, is U.S. history and civics. One thing I do not love is, over the past decade or more, I just noticed how much hypocrisy there is when I need to teach, like, the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Usually I'm trying to connect, current issues with his history, right? And so, for example, I didn't look it up, it must have been around 2010 or 12 or something, when a Palestinian woman was rounded up in some of these raids. She had her citizenship taken away on bogus charges from the 1960s when she was in an Israeli prison. I think her name was Ramzia Odeh, if I remember. Yeah. And so it just happens I was teaching, like, we just finished World War I, right? And so we're talking about Emma Goldman and how she had her citizenship taken away, and lo and behold, it's happening again, right, in current events in Chicago. Of course, there's so many police brutality cases, and the Flint, Michigan water crisis. I mean, it all connects. And if we want to organize for anything, we need to have our civil liberties. And if we lose the right to dissent and hold leaders accountable, of course, all other rights will be fiction. So we need to support people like the Uhuru Black People's Socialist Party, and they're trying to be arrested right now, as well as far as local cases. So let's resist corrupt leaders from forcing us into this low-wage police state that they seem to have on the agenda for us. Free Julian Assange.
All right, that was great representation of our organization. I also just trying to think of other things that I wanted to kind of react to, things that we could show on the screen. I wrote this book, Letter to Bob Avakian, about the leader, of the Revolutionary Communist Party, Bob Avakian. And in the book, I showed that he's got ties to French intelligence. And I criticized him for not standing with Russia and China in the Ukraine war, for his neutral stance. And a couple weeks ago, he launched his own personal social media. The Revolutionary Communist Party had their own social media before. Now he's got a Twitter. Now he's got a YouTube channel. He's been putting up these YouTube videos. So I'm amused. So I guess this was his video that he just posted, and I must say, I'm not impressed, but I'm just going to, he's doing short videos. This one's about 3 minutes long. The title is A Special Message, Fuck Snoop Dogg. This is Bob Avakian. Yeah, here we go.
This is Bob Avakian with a special message. Fuck Snoop Dogg. If you want to know why I say this, go watch episode number 181 of the YouTube RNL Revolution Nothing Less show. There you'll hear about how in a recent interview, Snoop Dogg said he had nothing but love and respect for Donald Trump. So I'll say it again. Fuck Snoop Dogg.
He's trying to be edgy or something. Like he's down with the youth. This rapper said something pro-Trump, and so he nailed him. I don't know. I mean, the guy's 80. You know, he's trying. I'll give him I'll give him that. But this is kind of lame.
And the same for any other hustlers, posers, and pimps, or any of those polished puppets they have on the so-called news networks and other media, pretending they're telling people something real when they're just poisoning people's minds, doing dirty work for this monstrous system of capitalism imperialism, not even ashamed to praise and promote its putrid politicians, whether it's that racist, woman-hating, MAGA fascist Donald Trump, or Genocide Joe, let's back Israel all the way and slaughtering Palestinians, Biden. As I have said before, we don't need any more of this whole situation where some get ahead and a few, including some of these hip-hop hustlers, are built up by this system as role models who get big bank and become part of the business of exploiting people, while masses of people are still held down, exploited, abused, and despised. We don't need any more of people boasting about being a billionaire. If you are a billionaire, that's only because you are part of the exploitation of billions of people around the world, including more than 150 million children and others who are poorer than the very poorest people in this country.
Well, I mean, what are you getting at? What are you getting at? I mean, yes, you're right that, you know, the imperialist system leads to people around the world being kept in chronic poverty, and that the way the big banks and corporations that run the United States maintain their power is by holding back economic development. But we're not opposed to wealth, and I always make that point. We're not against wealth, right? We're against exploitation. The material basis of communism is creating so much wealth that inequality fades away. So we're not against wealth. We're against how that wealth is created, which is exploitation.
Most of all, we don't need this system that treats billions of people in this way.
I agree.
We need to get rid of this system and bring something much better into being.
I agree.
And we can.
I agree.
As I've also said before, for any of you woke posers and hustlers out there, don't even bother with that nonsense about who are you to say all this. I'll tell you who I am. I am someone who is heart and soul, hardcore serious about a real revolution.
I agree.
Someone with a scientific understanding of the need and the possibility for this revolution.
Well, actually, I argue that your worldview has a lot of spiritual feelings mixed into it. That's what I argue in the book. It's not purely scientific. And you call it that, but there's a lot of spiritual and emotional feelings that you don't acknowledge that underlie it. And the way you talk about North Korea and the way you talk about various things has a lot of non-scientific idealism, that flows from it. And I get into that in the book.
In this time we're living in now, someone who is working every day, giving everything I have for this revolution, so that all those who are held down, exploited, abused, and despised here and all over the world can finally get all the way free. if you too are sick and tired of all the horrors perpetrated by this system, and you want an end to this madness, then get with this revolution and dig into my other messages about why and how we could really make this revolution.
All right. Well, hey, noble try, but I do have my book, Letter to Bob Avakian, which is contrasting his perspective with my own, critiquing, how the worldview he puts forward has a lot more in common with wokeism than with genuine Marxism. So now that he's on social media, hey, I think people should get this out there. I think that anyone who's digging into his stuff should read my critique of it and should read what I have to say, which this is not just a hit piece, mind you. It's Bob Avakian speaking. This book goes into a great amount of detail about his strengths as well as his weaknesses. But it gives kind of my critique of his overall perspective and worldview. So I would recommend people check it out. I just thought, since he took a swipe at Snoop Dogg, I would show that on here. But anyway, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. I see we've got 5 super chats that have come in so far. I don't see any Rumble rants on Rumble, but I'm going to do the roll call. And then I'll start answering people's questions. So I'll call you all out as I see you on Rumble or Rockfin or YouTube. Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us this afternoon, I should say. Names and locations. Who is with us? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us? I'll call you all out. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. Who is with us? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us? We got Heidi from Amsterdam. Sjord from the Netherlands. Battle Cossack Gonzalo. Sierra Nevada Mima Flowers. David from San Jose. Phil in Miami, Florida. Luca from Singapore. Gonzalo in Argentina. Conrad from Poland. Jamie in Boise, Idaho. Lancashire, England. UP of Michigan. Carl the Trinket Man. And shout out to you, Carl. We love your trinkets. This is some amazing, beautiful stuff. We love you, Carl. Thank you for your amazing trinkets. Simon from Oslo, Norway. This is a very European. This is a good time for European folks. I don't often do morning streams, but when I do, it's a great time for European folks. Ian from Chester, England. Alex from Brazil. Flaco Local Union, 640, Arizona. Patch from Arizona. Victory Gin, New Mexico. California, moving to North Hollywood. Mosen from Denver. Mary in South Africa. Neat. All right. Very, very good. Very, very good. Carl, applause. Schenectady, New York. Lagos, Nigeria. Dean Reed Moments is in a secret location. It's not Kansas City. Here I come. All right. But anyway, I love Dean Reed. Dean Reed's some good music. All right. Chris in Salt Lake City is watching us. It's earlier out there, right? That's almost the West Coast. Patrick in Maine is with us. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. Good times, everybody. Anybody else? Names and locations. Oh, Chow Chow Kathy sent a Rumble rant. Since you answered my question, be safe and have fun in Russia. Well, thank you, Chow Chow Kathy. We do appreciate that. Steve and Ann in Ringgold, Georgia. Anybody else? Names and locations. Names and locations. We would love to have you, give us your name and location so that we can know who's watching. Great things are happening. We are having a national retreat gathering, a national 4-day workshop for the Center for Political Innovation. Oh, Vegas. Very, very good. Cobra from the Shadows. Very good. So if you want to come to our national 4-day workshop that we are having, it's in Vermont. You get to learn all about what CPI is about, do some fun activities and games with people, get to know people, eat some good food. It's going to be a lot of fun. You can sign up right here for our national workshop that's coming up. It'll be April 26th through 29th, the very end of April, right before May, in Vermont. So if you can attend, I just dropped the link in both chats. It's going to be a great experience. So sign up. We got people signing up, and sign up and come join us. It'll be after I get back from Russia. It'll be the end of April. We're going to roll out a new textbook, which I'm almost done writing. It's going to be really, really a great time for all. So sign up to come to our national gathering that we are having in Vermont, April 26th through 29th. You can sign up. There's a link on the announcement and invitation that went up February 1st, and you can sign up to attend. We want to make it as fun of a gathering as possible, have a good crowd of people to really enjoy themselves. Should be fun. So that'll be good. All right. So I'm going to start answering people's questions, and then I'll be signing off, right? I got some work to do this afternoon, got some UN meetings that need to be covered, etc. But all righty. Okay. So first things first, Chow Chow Kathy says, since you already answered my question, have a fun and safe trip. Well, thank you, Chow Chow Kathy. We do our best. We do our best, and we will be having a fun and safe trip. I think I need to get a haircut before the trip, but we'll see. All right. How you get to Russia? There's no flights from Europe. I'm guessing the same as the US. Well, sit carefully while I give you my entire trip itinerary here publicly on the internet. In case anyone wants to harass me at the airport, I'm just joking, Simon. No, please don't take offense. But yes, we obviously have to go through third-party countries. Obviously we can't fly directly to Russia from the United States. It used to be, if I wanted to fly to Russia, I would just go to JFK Airport, and in the Aeroflot airline, which is a state-run airline, which has the hammer and sickle on their logo. Did you know this? The state-run airline of Russia actually has the hammer and sickle on their logo, and it's a state-run airline. And I would just go to JFK, to the Aeroflot, section, and I would get on a flight, New York City to Moscow, and I'd get on the plane, and I'd take some NyQuil, and I'd fall asleep, and then I'd wake up in Moscow. Boom. Not so simple no more because of the sanctions. They shut down Aeroflot. They ban Aeroflot, the airline, in the United States. So obviously, I'm not flying directly to Russia. But obviously, I hope you understand, Simon, that I can't lay out, the exact details of my trip on here for security reasons. It's not like I'm going in some complicated way. No, I'm planning to fly to Kazakhstan and then be smuggled over the border by the Kazakh mafia, and I'll be living under a false name. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, it's not that complicated. The trip is not really that complicated, but yes, I am flying through a third-party country. I wish it could be more interesting, right? I wish I could tell you some exciting adventure story. Like I'm taking a boat to Spain, and then in Spain, I will have plastic surgery to have a different nose and adopt a Lithuanian accent. And then, very funny, but, so do people get briefed by the feds when they return from Russia? Yeah, people get messed with, you get messed with at the airport if you do this kind of work. When I was going to Iran, I got messed with at the airport all the time. And I've been messed with. I've talked about it on these streams, coming back from Nicaragua, coming back from Venezuela. You get messed with, right, when you go on these international trips. So yeah, we've trained our whole team to prepare to get messed with, right? Because you generally get messed with if you go to international gatherings like this. So there you go. There you go. All right. Would you describe conspiracy thought as the liberal democratic version of The God That Failed? So The God That Failed is an anti-communist book that was published by the CIA in the 1950s. I have a copy of it somewhere around here, and it's different essays by communists, people who quit being communists. Arthur Kessler in Germany, Richard Wright, who was an African-American member of the Communist Party, who felt that they were manipulating and using the black struggle for their own agenda. I think Louis Fisher from The Nation, who was kind of a liberal writer for The Nation, who would never join the Communist Party, but was like a sympathizer with the Soviet Union and changed his mind after the Second World War. And I often reference that book, The God That Failed, because the title itself almost tells you what you need to know, right? You have to have a more nuanced view. Communism is not God. Communism is not infallible. The Soviet Union had problems, right? It absolutely had problems, no question about it. And the reason that the secret speech of Khrushchev was so devastating, and the reason that they were able to recruit a lot of people to become anti-communist was that there were a lot of people who idealized the Soviet Union in a rather primitive way. They were convinced the Soviet Union was heaven on earth. And when the leader Khrushchev came out and took a dump on Stalin and said that all the allegations in mainstream Western media against Stalin were true, that was a lot too much for people to handle, right? And that, you don't want to have a light switch worldview where, you see, if you see things in blatant, where, a light switch is either on or off, right? And if you see things in that sense, right, if a light switch is either on or off, all you have to do is discover one flaw and then you flip to the other side. And that, these anti-imperialist countries, they have problems. They do great things to raise people up out of poverty. They do great things to help defeat imperialism and stuff, but they have problems. Anti-imperialist countries have problems, and I'm very aware of those problems, right? And you have to learn to see things in a nuanced way, because if you don't, if you think communism is God, you're going to discover pretty soon that it's not, because it ain't. And then it's going to be the God that failed, right? And that is something that I work with people around, because we have this culture now of young people. It's where they want to attach to something, right? And if something lets them down, they want to expose them, and it's part of the social media mind problem, right? There was this kid in Alaska for a while who was sympathetic to CPI, and he said, I only found one other communist organization in Alaska, he told me. And he sent me the link to their website. And I said, okay, that's part of the National Labor Federation. That's NATLFed, right? That's one of these small communist groups that, whatever. There's criticism of them or whatever. So I just sent him the Wikipedia page. And I said, well, just so you know, this Alaskan Workers Association, that's the group that they're part of. And I sent him the link. And he's like, oh my God, it's a cult. I'm going to expose them and destroy them. I'm like, dude, just calm down, right? Just calm down. It's a communist group that operates, the only communist group that operates in Alaska that I'm well aware of. It has problems, obviously, but just calm down. You don't have to expose them. Maybe you don't want to join them. Maybe you do. I don't know. But you asked me what I thought of this communist group that operates in Alaska. And I just said, I don't know much about them. Here's their Wikipedia page. And that we have this culture where everyone wants to, have a big explosive reaction, right? Russia's not heaven on earth. Russia has problems. North Korea is not heaven on earth. North Korea has problems. But I have a more sympathetic view to these countries than most Western people do. And I feel that Western media is largely, dishonest in the way it portrays them. We don't get the whole story when it comes to these countries. And that I feel U.S. imperialism and the global system of monopoly capitalism is the main threat to humanity. And that these countries that are struggling against it are on the right side. And the future of the American working class is aligning with the people of the world against imperialism, right? And these are beliefs that I maintain. But in order to maintain these beliefs and not get disillusioned, you have to have a nuanced view. So the question was, is conspiracy thought the liberal democratic version of the God that failed? And that's interesting, because conspiracy thought is the idea that and it's widespread now. People talk about the Illuminati and the reptilians and anti-Semitism, the Jews and this and that, and there's some cabal that's taken over the Western liberal democratic world. And is that the version of the God that failed? I don't know if it's that, right? The problem with conspiracy thought is that they don't seem to see any flaw in the liberal democratic system. It's just this evil cabal has taken it over, right? And that they don't want to dig into how the economy functions. They don't want to dig into why things are the way they are. They just want to have a conversation about the evil satanic cabal, the blood drinking pedophiles that have taken everything over. And that's one of the weaknesses of conspiracy thought. However, Marxists make the opposite mistake. You got a lot of Marxists that think, oh, JFK wasn't assassinated, right? He was not a communist. So JFK was just part of the, and that there are conspiracies and there are factions in the ruling class that battle each other. And there are secret societies and there are plots by one faction in the ruling class against the other. And conspiracy thought often acknowledges that. And Marxists often just have this dogmatic view of like, no, all capitalists and imperialists are bad. And when it comes to things like 9/11 and the Kennedy assassination and other events, they can't think about these things with any depth. They just want to give you an ideological speech. A great example of this is at the time of the death of, at the time the movie JFK came out, which was about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, a film made by Oliver Stone. Howard Zinn and Noam Chomsky both condemned the movie, but Michael Parenti, the Marxist writer, he embraced the movie and he gave a great talk about the Kennedy assassination. And he said, look, just because Kennedy was not a communist, and just because Kennedy was, not an anti-imperialist, which he wasn't, doesn't mean there weren't differences in the ruling class. And that when people ignore the differences in the ruling class, when they just kind of say, oh, they're all bad, they're all capitalists, at that point, they're not doing real analysis. They're just kind of, dogmatically describing the world. And I refer to that as kindergarten communism. Right? You have to understand these things. There are different layers of understanding. Yes, Kennedy wasn't a communist. Yes, Kennedy represented sections of the capitalist class, but he represented one section of the capitalist class that was at odds with another section. And that division over how the USA should move forward and how the economy should function and how the USA should fight against communism led to his assassination, right? And that there are differences within the ruling class over these kinds of issues. And that's, the conspiracy crowd gets unfairly treated by Marxists, and Marxists, unfairly treat the conspiracy crowd. One problem with the conspiracy crowd is that a lot of them are libertarian, right? That they have this view that capitalism is, the good system, and that we, there's a real ideological weakness among the conspiracy crowd. So there you go. The new textbook that I'm writing gets into this in a lot of detail, right? About divisions in the ruling class and the conspiracy view and such. This new textbook is going to be quite educational. Goes over the history of the communist movement in America, among other things. So there you go. Was the first PSYOP in U.S. history? Who or what came up? What was the first PSYOP in U.S. history? And who or what came up with the idea? Well, I mean, that's a weird question, because a PSYOP is just anything intended to, use psychological manipulation to oppose your enemy, right? Psychological operations are used in war, and they're usually intended to confuse your enemy. And I mean, during the American Revolution, right? There was a big effort, on the part of the settlers to recruit Native Americans to be on their side, to recruit Black people to be on their side. The British got a lot of Native Americans to fight for them. I'm sure that there was manipulation by the American settlers to try and get Native Americans to side with them, to try and get different people in different colonies to side with them. And you could call that psychological operations. All that psychological operations refers to is it's activity in war that doesn't involve weapons. It involves an attempt to confuse or manipulate your enemy psychologically. And the psychological operations take place in every war to some degree or other. I mean, not all wars are fought in terms of brute force. So to say what was the first psychological operation in history, I mean, a lot of people point to modern war propaganda as beginning with Edward Bernays and Remember the Maine, he said, and yellow journalism. And William Randolph Hearst, and how they staged a lot of propaganda to convince Americans to support the U.S. War with Spain, the Spanish-American War. How there were a lot of prisoners that they filmed on Rikers Island who were badly treated, and they published the photographs. And they convinced Americans that Spain was torturing people, and it was actually pictures of Rikers Island. And the yellow journalism, they called it, in the lead up to the Spanish-American War, the barrage of propaganda about how evil the Spanish were and why the USA needed to go invade Cuba and the Philippines. Remember the Maine, to hell with Spain. Right. People point to that as being like modern war propaganda, but I don't know. Psychological operations generally refers to things you do to your enemy, not things you do to the domestic population to convince them to support war. The PSYOPs division of the U.S. Armed Forces, however, did a lot of the staging of the Iraq War. So it's complicated. So there we go. All right. You guys owned that Ukrainian reporter. Were there any other reporters like that at the meeting? We showed the meeting is as you saw it. The whole video was there. There were a couple people who came up and tried to talk to us afterwards. We had a couple brief exchanges, but you can watch the whole UN press conference. It's on there. So there you go. You can watch it. It's on the YouTube channel. I think it was a great event that we did. The way he describes Russia is like what the Western media portrays North Korea. He's repeating the cult of personality myth. What's next? Haircuts? Exactly. Steve Hassan is a clown. And his book, The Cult of Trump, is outrageous. And the fact that he's advising Bread2, the fact that he went on CNN and called for a mass deprogramming of the country after January 6th. He's a particularly dangerous individual. And I pay attention to his work because, you talk about gangs and counter gangs and manipulation. It's worth paying attention to how dangerous that guy is. And he uses this cult narrative, this liberal narrative that, this is a cult. He uses that to manipulate people. He uses that to push liberalism, to destroy organizations, etc. Do you agree that regardless of whether Trump runs, Biden's age is a problem? Well, it's not his age, right? One can be old and be sharp. I think there's an issue with Biden's cognition. Right? It's not that he's old, it's that he's not all there, right? One can be old and be all there. Biden is not all there. If somebody was 20 years old and they weren't all there, it would be an issue. Biden, he slips every so often. The issue is his cognition. I believe that the Biden administration has tried to weaponize that. They've got people around Biden that have him make old man slips that are not real in order to get away with saying different things, to talk out of two sides of his mouth. But at the same time, Biden is also just not all there. I think this is part of the Brzezinski strategy, making the USA look weak while it's escalating international tensions, make it look like it's retreating. This is a repeat of the Carter administration and the methods that were used during the Carter years. Make the USA look like it's woke and new and forgiving, while behind the scenes they're actively manipulating things. I think that they're trying to play up the idea that that our commander-in-chief, our president, is just this nice old man who would never want to hurt anybody. And the USA is holding back, and it's not attacking countries when it is. It's manipulating international tension. The idea is to portray Russia and China and Iran and all of them as the aggressors. That's the idea. So there we go. How do we stop the conflation of critical theory with Marxism? Well, the main thing, we just need to highlight the gap between actual communist governments and wokeism, right? And we just need to harp on that as loudly as we possibly can, that actual communist governments are not woke, right? And we need to just hit that over and over and over again. North Korea is not woke. China is not woke, right? The cringe wokeness that conservatives hate and actual communist governments don't line up. And we need to just hammer that point home over and over and over again. And don't let them get away with it. Right? When they say, the woke people are just like China, say no. And point out that that's an outrageous statement. When you look at the actual Marxist-Leninist communist governments in this world and the way they present themselves and the arguments that they make, and if you look at the way woke people operate, it's night and day. And woke people might think they're Marxist, and woke people might draw from Marx. And communist governments may have adjusted their socialist system to have a market sector, etc. But you just have to hammer home that there's a big difference, and that when they try to equate the two, you cannot equate the two. That's the point. Comparing Yemen to Americans and their struggle against imperialism should make everyone think positively about Yemen. Great book. Yeah, well, we're going to give it to people that we meet from the Middle East. We're going to give copies of it away at the World Youth Festival. It continues to get good reviews. People continue to buy it. I think it's a great contribution. We wrote it very quickly because of the international events that rapidly escalated, but it needed to be written. I'm glad it's out there. I'm glad people are reading it. I'm glad they're enjoying it. I would encourage people, if you can, tweet about it, promote it, write a review on Amazon. That would be great. We need more reviews of the book so that, that people, have it out there. Let people know about it. If you would like to order it in bulk to distribute at Palestine rallies, right? Here's the link to the Houthi book. Get in touch with me. I can ship you copies of it to distribute in bulk. So if you're going to a Palestine rally, and you want to distribute it, get in touch with me, right? If you want to sell it for $5, or whatever you want, I can ship them to you at very cheap, at print cost. I can, the cover price is $11.50. But the print cost is like $2.30 plus shipping. So if you want to distribute this book and you want to make some money, or maybe you want to donate it to CPI or whatever you want to do, if you want to get in touch with me, I can ship you copies of this book if you're in the United States, and you can sell it for whatever you want, right? You have to pay the printing and shipping. It's $2.30 a copy plus shipping. And then the rest, you can donate to CPI, you can keep, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. If you wanted to get this book out there, you want to help get this book out there, we made it cheap, right? So it's not super expensive. We made it very readable. We made it, the idea is to get the American people to understand who the Houthis are and why they should be supported. That's the idea. We got a lot of graphics, and it's just a booklet introducing the Houthi movement and what they stand for to the American people, and to explain why they're right and what their slogans are about and where their movement came from and what we can learn about them as we strive to build a revolutionary movement here. And if you want to help us distribute this book, I would encourage you to do so. We can ship them to you at print cost. It's our attempt to intervene in the upsurge of pro-Palestine sentiment that's taking place right now. So there you go. All right, folks. Well, it's been fun. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to stream again before the trip. I'm leaving Tuesday, but I might get a chance to stream again before Tuesday. We'll see. But yeah, I'm going to put on the closing music, and we'll be back. I think I might be able to stream from the festival. Last time I was in Russia, I was able to stream from my hotel. So if I can get on Wi-Fi in Russia, I'll probably be able to stream from the festival, and that would be great. So there you go. New upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.